Kija, and my project is called Awakening the Goddess. What is Awakening the Goddess? It is a documentary about Kundalini awakening. So before I go into the ins and outs of this documentary, I just want to have a moment of appreciation to Professor Chappell for this awesome program, and because this film would not be being made if it wasn't for this program, and for Professor Chappell and the contacts he's helped me make with a lot of people. And I also want to thank my teachers who are here supporting me from the monastery in the back, and a lot of you know that. And I want to thank also Professor Ana Funes, who you will see in a moment. And, it's good. And I also want to thank all of you who are supporting us on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you so much. That's actually really important. So what is Awakening the Goddess? It's a documentary about Kundalini awakening. Why did I want to do a documentary about Kundalini awakening? First of all, over 30 years ago, I myself had an experience of Kundalini awakening. And so from my experience, I can tell you how much it's changed my life, how my life just totally took a different turn, and how much it has helped and is so much a part of my saga and what is needed for anyone doing a spiritual path. And there's a need to get this information out there because there's reliable information, but you have to really look for it. It's not readily available. So this is an attempt to get to the people that can speak about it because they've got that information. Dispelling fear and misinformation because there's not reliable information. There's a tremendous amount of fear and misunderstanding about Kundalini awakening. So this film is to help with that too as well. And also to bring a larger awareness of the benefit that it has. And this goes back to what I was saying in my own experience, experience of awakening Kundalini, that if you're really striving, for example, to live the yamas and the niyamas, you know, an awakened Kundalini helps you because it gives you a place to stand in your mind, it gives you energy, and it gives you a perspective so you can say, hey, you can be back and, you know, kind of witnessing, maybe I shouldn't be so angry, maybe I shouldn't be so nasty, you know, because you can have actually the ability to do that. And it's really, really important. And so again, and then overcoming those negative thoughts and emotions, it's incredibly powerful for using that. So the goal is to explore Kundalini awakening from a wide array of perspectives. And what are those perspectives? Scholarly, modern day teacher practitioner, and also scientific. Scholarly. So we have, these are all people who have either been interviewed or will be being interviewed for the film. James Mallinson, who many of you know, we studied James Mallinson's work here in the program. He's a philologist, but he's also lived with yogis, and he's translated texts, Hatha Yoga texts, many of which talk about the Kundalini awakening. Chris Chappell, who you all I think you know, and we've already done his interview, which you're going to see a little bit of in a few minutes, and he just brings his wealth of experience, textually, but also just that wealth of experience that he has. Ana Funes, who also brings her experience as both a Kundalini Yoga teacher and also her textual experience. As you know, many of who if you don't know, she teaches our Hatha Yoga text class. So she brings a lot of that to this. John Casey, besides being an expert paraglider, generally, like James Mallinson, they have that in common. He's also very good. He was our Buddhism teacher, and so he's going to talk about Zumo in the film. And then another contact that Chris just got me introduced to is Shravana Borkate Varma, I believe I pronounced that correctly. She has done an ethnographic study of Kundalini awakening and practices specifically for women, like through women's point of view. So she's going to be really interesting. I haven't done that interview yet, but that will be soon. Next we have, those who are modern day teachers and practitioners, and I kind of separated them into those that have a lineage or are currently associated with a lineage and those that are not. Sally Kempton is a teacher right now on her own, but interestingly enough, many of you know she was associated with the lineage, with the Muktananda lineage, but she's teaching now on her own. Lawrence Edwards was actually Also, through the City Yoga lineage, he received his awakening, but he is now teaching on his own. And Lusana Erickson, this was a recommendation of John Casey. She is involved in something called Subud, which is a Kundalini awakening practice that's very unusual. It doesn't involve a teacher, but when she described it to me, I said, yeah, let's do an interview because it definitely sounds like a Kundalini awakening experience.
And it's from Indonesia.
It's from Indonesia. Thank you. Thank you very much. Part of a living lineage. Anand Bhima and Dilip Ji of Dhyan Yoga. We've done this interview just recently, and they're part of the Dhyan Yogi lineage, and it's very powerful. Having a lineage when you're working with Kundalini is a very powerful thing. That is, it's very. I'll just say there's a power to it, and there's a whole context when you have a teacher and a lineage with that. And the Gopis of Morning Land Monastery, who I just introduced, and they're part of the lineage of the Master Sri Donato, the Master Donato. And there I know I'm biased, but I just want to say that when you have a community of people that have a Kundalini awakening, a Sangha like that, there are some amazing things that happen when you have a group of people together that have an awakened Kundalini. And that's all I'll say about that right now. It's really quite something. Michael Molino, I just shot this interview today. He is doing some really interesting work. He has something called the Emerging Sciences Foundation, and he is he's taking volunteers who have had a Kundalini awakening, and he's interviewing them, and he's actually working with UC Davis. They are taking blood samples because he believes that if they look at the blood in a certain way, that's just one of the things he's doing, for example, that he believes he can find certain cofactors that will show that the blood is different. He's doing that, to prove that we change on that, even on that level. We change through and through when we have a Kundalini awakening. He's very interesting. He said today, what is Kundalini? Because I asked all the interviewees, how do you describe Kundalini? And he said, it's an upgrade for your brain. And I thought, well, that's really kind of accurate because he said when he had his Kundalini awakening, all of a sudden he started to see things in a totally different way. It was like his brain kind of shifted, and he was just having these amazing experiences. So those are the three different perspectives. And the main questions I ask of all the interviewees, what is Kundalini? Because everybody kind of describes it differently, but it's kind of like Anakampada. It's that it's all the same thing. They're really talking about the same thing, but they're exploring it from their different vantage points. How is Kundalini awakened? Do you need a teacher? Which is a very controversial but very important question. And for people that have a teacher, they're like, yes, yes. And for people that don't, they're like, nah, so everybody has their viewpoint, but it's all valid. And then what are the benefits of having an awakened Kundalini, which I talked a little bit about from my own perspective, having this awakening going on for 30 years. All right, so I think I just turned that off. All right, so what I'm going to show you tonight, because this film is really beginning to develop a life of its own. We've only shot 3 now today, 4 of the interviews, so I wanted to show you something. So I cut together this to give you a feel for what the project is about. So we're going to show that, and let me get to this computer. This is so exciting. The volume's going to be, but go ahead and turn that off.
અને એ શક્તિ 3.5 આટામાં કરોડરજ્જુની છેડે સુષુપ્ત છે.
So the yogis call it the Kundalini, which literally means a coil, a serpentine form.
Kundalini is a way of thinking about the body and the potential of the body and the reality of the body. We know that there is an energy, a pran, a vital force that suffuses the body.
In the Shiva Samhita, for example, Kundalini is recognized as the goddess of speech. And this relation between Kundalini and a creative word, this association between Kundalini and the creative principle of the word, of language, goes back to the Vedas.
And in the Indian spiritual texts, the energy of God which began creation, of course, is the Divine Mother herself.
And that at the base of the spine, there is a coiled energy that from which we bound up and where we again take rest.
Kundalini is actually mentioned as a goddess, as in the Kujika tradition, or also as an energy stored in the body located at the bottom of the spine.
અને એ શક્તિ 3.5 આટામાં કરોડરજ્જુની છેડે સુષુપ્ત છે.
So the yogis call it the Kundalini, which literally means a coil, a serpentine form.
Which is coiled 3.5 times
In 3.5 coils, 3.5 turns.
એ શક્તિ આમ તો અનેક રીતના જાગૃત થઈ
There
શકે.
are of course many ways by which the Kundalini can be awakened. Many of course also experience spontaneous awakenings. But in Kundalini Mahayoga, in our path and lineage, the key function or the key technology, so to say, of awakening the Kundalini is through what is known as the process of Shaktipat.
In most of the Hatha Yoga texts that I'm acquainted with, the awakening of the Kundalini is the effect of a particular way of manipulating prana. I would recommend having a teacher when dealing with Kundalini, just as I would recommend having a teacher when wanting to learn something new.
As far as the Kundalini is concerned, again, that's tremendous energy. It's like nuclear energy. You know, we want to learn even some physical sciences. You know, you want to do anything electrical in your home, you cannot fiddle around with live wires. You better call an electrician.
In India, from time immemorial, there have been heroes. There have been spiritual heroes, including the 7 rishis who composed the Rig Veda. And these people have names. They were real, live, flesh and blood people, such as the sage Vasishta, the sage Vishvamitra, and various others. And then throughout Indian history, we have spiritual heroes such as Siddhartha Gautama, who became known as the Buddha, Lord Mahavira, also known as the 24th great teacher or Tirthankara of the Jain tradition. And this notion of the heroic person in the Sikh tradition known as the Guru, in the devotional traditions of India known as the Sant or the Saint, that these people are inspiring figures who, through their very presence, are able to encourage people to themselves discover the possibility of awakening these energies within themselves.
I'm gonna fill my garage, let the music play out. can answer them. Is there time for that? Yeah. Oh, okay.
That was great.
I wanted to give it a feel for what it's going to be like.
Excellent, by the way.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see the finished product. Other than your degree, what are your plans for the film?
So finishing it, seriously, it just, I got another, John Casey gave me another person, and then somebody asked me today, and another person like John Hughes, if we should interview him, so it's kind of taken on a life, so I need to get it done and finished, and then to see what happens from there. I mean, it could be like maybe a festival or something, I think it's important the information gets out there, so I'm kind of open, to that. Protective but open, because I want to know, it has to go into the right places. Okay, you were first, go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, Kija, I was just wondering if you came across anything in terms of the convergence of Kundalini and then mental health, such as bipolar or schizophrenia. There's been books such as...
Yes.
You have? Okay.
Well, in my knowledge I have. So if you, referencing Swami Muktananda in the 70s, he brought together a whole group of psychologists, and they had a whole conference. There's audio tape available on it. There might be some papers written on it, but he brought psychologists together because there seemed to be an intersection between Kundalini experience and what psychology calls psychotic experience.
Right.
And he's like, people think psychologists think these people are having a psychotic experience when they're actually having an experience of awakening. So that's what I know. I know he did some work with his group. So.
Yeah, also Lisa Noah wrote a book called Kundalini Psychosis or
Yes,
Transcendence.
yes.
That already says what that's
yes,
about.
I am
And then
familiar with that book.
where Addie's going to school, there was a professor teaching there, Stan Grock, and he's in the spiritual emergence, and that's been really right there.
Okay, yes. I've only read a little of it. I used some of it in my paper, and yes, I know it's a really good book. My sister also wrote a PhD, and hers was on Kundalini, also in a different aspect, and she used the same book, the Lisa Nella book.
Awesome.
So-
So in general, with it, I guess I was getting at also, what would you say about the intensity of the experience? How do you find that grounding after, either personally or otherwise? It's general.
That's a good question, and it's broad, because everybody is going to be different, and the scriptures also talk about that. They talk about different, I think it's I'm going to draw on Alana for help, amazing, if it's the Tantra Loka, or the one that talks about the different levels of awakening. I'm sorry, I don't have it right in my head, but it's a scripture, and they talk about the different levels that the student, depending on karma, and depending on the teacher, and just all these convergences, they can have different gradations of, intense to like when it first happened to me, I felt something, but also I'm gonna admit it, I was like one of those people that was kind of like, it took me a while, to feel something, but I know something is like, and because, it's just who I am. But so everybody's gonna have different levels. That's a wide question.
Sure.
So, did that answer your question?
It does, yeah. Thank you very much.
Somebody else had their hand up here. Whitney.
You're Swiss Shaktipat, right?
Yes.
So I don't know much about what happens after the Kundalini awakens and how long it lasts or if it's eternal. Are those questions going to be answered in the movie?
Yeah, that's a question that I'm going to be asking several of my teachers, and also I did ask Anonima and Delishi as well, but that will be addressed. That's what I'll say. That will be addressed.
Does it
Because it's a
vary?
good question. For example, so you can have the awakening, and then I'll just go with what Anonima and Delishi said. Because some people they have an awakening, but then they want to go out and play in the world. They don't want to do, they don't want to go on a spiritual path. He says that that the Kundalini will go back down, that it'll lay dormant. But I have a feeling that there's different answers for this question. So.
Can't wait. I'm so excited.
So at the end, will you have a little quiz that the audience can take?
It's an idea. I like how you go to those movies and they take surveys. That's an idea. I'm going to follow that.
Are you a filmmaker?
I am. That's another reason I did this. and why I'm really appreciative to Chris that the program allows us to be very creative. And so I really felt that this deserved a film more than, because I wrote a couple of papers in my last semester, but I felt that this really deserved something bigger. And I love making films, so yes.
And you're trying to raise money on Kickstarter?
Yes, okay, that was the big important message, the shameless promotion. So Kickstarter will be starting May 17th, and tell your friends, share the links, just, bombard them, say, donate, or even if the people don't donate, just spread the links, share it with people. Because that's really how a successful Kickstarter works, is through promotion on social media.
And how much are you trying to raise on Kickstarter?
Now, nobody gawk or anything, because you'll know it, because it'll be on Kickstarter, but we're raising $50,000. We're actually raising 57 because when you go, as you know, when you do Kickstarter, you get presents, you get perks. So we have to pay for a lot of stuff getting out to people. So it's going to go to professional editing, professional music, professional sound. There's some, you can see that we had a little bit of some sound problems, so that can all get fixed. We can do that with professional help.
That's all the way through distribution?
Yes, all that, yeah. What my budget guy went through, yeah, he even through distribution, at least to a certain point, yeah.
What do you intend to do with the film once it's at full finished production?
I think that's what's, you also asked that question. Basically, get it out there so people can see it, but also in a protective way so that it goes to the right channel.
But in terms of, is it going to go to kind of academic environments?
It will definitely be, I think that's a good place for it, especially in this environment, because we understand a lot of what they're going to be talking about, and studying it.
Yeah, Lisa Lehman, who was with us to show Awake, I think will be a really good person to consult with, because Awake was released very gradually, and with the contacts that we have residually, we can get advice, or you can get advice from her and from them about how to first sort of leak it to the inner communities that have a real interest in Kundalini, and arrange some, maybe even theater showings. But yeah, Lisa will be really helpful.
Thank you, yeah. And Chris has been really great. He introduced me to Lisa, and then she's been really helpful, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
One last question that I had. You mentioned Shravana Bolane, and there was a hyphen name.
Yes.
And she mentioned, she was talking about difference of Kundalini in a women's body. I don't know how in depth you talked with her, but are the chakras in different places, or how do you know any about
I haven't had a chance to talk with her yet. As far as I know, everybody is equal, and I'm really interested to know what does she see, because she went and studied people, she did some ethnographic study. So she seems to think I think a lot of it has to do with just practice, the different practices. But as far as I understand it in the subtle body, I'm not clairvoyant, and I know a lot of people are, but I think there are differences in individual subtle body, but as far as actual placement and stuff, maybe I can't answer that question with experience, so I don't know. All right, thank you all for staying.